biggest challenge that most people always have to overcome is yourself. You are always
Mm,
going to be the biggest barrier standing in the way of what you want. I'm very competitive and I hate being told this is something you can't do. I hate being looked down upon, or I love proving people wrong. And if you want to make something happen, you have to do it yourself.
Today I'm chatting with Venus Sun. She's an absolute sales gun, earning the spot of the top 1% of reps at her company. Now, prior to this, she started her own venture in the midst of COVID and even successfully exited. She brings tremendous insight into sales, what it takes to be successful, and some really good take home advice for challenges that most people deal with on a day to day basis. Let's go. Hey, V.
Hey.
I wanted to talk about you today, right? So, for everybody listening, you started a career in recruiting, you led a team, you went up the ranks up to senior leadership, then you did a stint in sales, then you successfully launched and ran your own dessert box business during COVID, by the way, and then you exited and returned to sales. Whereas I understand it, you are currently crushing it. Venus, what do you think from your perspective you do differently?
That's a really good question. And thank you so much for starters. When I think back to what I've done well and I look back onto my journey, what really stands out compared to myself from others really goes down to the innate traits. And there are some things that you can teach
Yeah.
and some things that you can't teach. What I'm not too sure you can teach, but I believe that you can build are things like drive, grit, and resilience. Those three are the top things because I've always been thrown into situations where it is hard. When I first joined my recruiting role, it started off as a grad and it was in a completely new office where there was absolutely no one wanting to do business, no HR leads, no nothing. And I was able to turn that from being a grad in a three-person team within 2.5 years after 5 promotions,
Mm.
I was able to turn that into a team of 10. And so
Yeah, hell yeah.
that all comes down to a lot of hard work. And if you want to make something happen, you have to do it yourself.
So going back to what you're saying about grit, and that, are you saying that can be taught, or do you think that's something that's just an innate nature?
I actually have this debate all the time. I think grit is something that comes a different level to everyone. It's really around your mental strength and fortitude around how you can build that. If you are someone who doesn't like to give up, grit is something that you can build if you're like, you know what, let me just get up, try again. Let me just try harder. Let me just work that little bit better. And slowly it can build up. There are some people out there who are absolutely fantastic. And in my view, they already naturally come with that high level of tenacity and grit. But I would
Uh-huh,
say that
uh-huh.
that's exception.
You're saying that people have grit because, well, some people come gritty naturally, right?
Yeah.
And I think I've met people like that, and you know it straight away, right? Like you see them and you see them work, and you're like, shit, this person gets it. But then you're saying there are people that learn it, like kind of like an atomic habit. You know, they show up all the time, they keep doing it, and they build it. They build this like experience of being gritty. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And that's if they want it. And I will say that there is going to be a ceiling for some people.
Yeah, yeah.
Not everyone is going to be able to get to those superstars, but I always believe that it's always up to you whether or not it's a trait that you want to build. It's a trait that you want to invest in because a lot of people just aren't built to be gritty. And they don't
Yeah,
want to be, like
yeah,
they're not looking to be the superstars of, their company. They're not looking to be number one. They're not the things or priorities that they have in life could be very different from someone who is, say, Elon Musk, or, I'm going for controversial
right,
here, but, they're really ambitious people, and that's
yeah.
okay. And so that's why, again, it does come back down to you as a person, who your priorities are, and whether or not you got to ask yourself you truly want to do it, because building grit is not easy.
And do you reckon that's the reason why you were quite successful in your career in recruiting?
Yeah, I was determined to prove people wrong. Everyone listening, I was in Sydney, and you had the beautiful glitz and glam of the CBD office, and I was in
Yeah,
an office called in Parramatta, which is part of Western Sydney, and it was very difficult to find people who wanted to work there back in those days, because they were like, "Oh, well, I'd rather work in the city office." And then when you were hired into that Parramatta office, there was that stigma of, well, oh, that's a shit office. Nobody wants to really work there.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
not going to make much. You're not going to do well there. Even though it wasn't spoken, you can still feel the aura, the expectations.
Right, yeah,
It's a very different feel for me. I'm very competitive, and
yeah,
I hate being told this is something you can't do. I hate being looked down upon, or I love proving people wrong. So that really helped feed my ambition. And that's happened in recruitment. It's happened in my startup. It's happened recently in my tech sales career. I'll be very honest, when I first left recruitment to do tech sales,
mm,
I didn't enjoy it in the first year. There was a lot of things that
yeah,
I didn't like. But second time round, when I rejoined that company, to your point, I wanted to prove everyone wrong that I could do sales, that I, could be good,
yeah,
and went from being someone quite mediocre to becoming the top 1%, globally. And so
yeah, yeah,
was number one APAC within my region for
yeah,
2 years straight before
yeah.
deciding to move to London.
All right, I'm gonna really dig into this, but it's evident that the key thing for you was you came back to sales with a chip on your shoulder, which got you to be an absolute weapon the second time around when you boomeranged back. But I know you just breezed over this, but I want you to kind of clarify so that we have a full perspective of what number one meant. You said that you hit number one as a rep, and this was at Gartner, right? Yes. How many reps are there at Gartner? I want to paint the picture of what it actually meant to be number one, because it's not like somebody coming on and saying, "Oh yeah, look, I was number one at a startup with like 3 reps." Right, that really means nothing. How many reps are there at Gartner in total? Yeah, and it doesn't have to be an exact number, but give me something like a couple hundred, couple thousand
The
globally.
new the neurotic side of me has to give you the exact
All
number.
right, all
Sadly,
right.
I
It's the
can't.
competitive side.
So you're looking at roughly 5,000 sales reps globally. And that's being the top 1% of the 5,000 reps. And then if you look at the region, you're looking at maybe around 300.
300 regionally, 5,000 globally. Okay, just so you know, once once we're done here and this video gets released and it gets pushed onto LinkedIn, right? When the recruiters listen to this and they hear that you are the top 1% out of 5,000 reps, your inbox is going to be flooded. Just as a heads up, maybe a heads up for your manager as well.
I'm always welcome to opportunities and conversations. So make that happen.
And just by the way, I think just to give a little bit of context, I also worked at Gartner. We're aware of this, but just saying this out loud, I'm aware of how difficult it is to be essentially the creme de la creme at Gartner. So absolutely props on you, Venus. I want to kind of flip the switch a little bit. We spoke about what makes you different, and obviously where that's taken you, which is huge. But maybe going a little bit more introspective on the other side, thinking back, what was one of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome? And this could be kind of across broadly, or it could be maybe in a particular part in your career.
I think the biggest challenge that most people always have to overcome is yourself. You are always
Mm.
going to be the biggest barrier standing in the way of what you want. And I say this because, I've referenced it before. I always felt like I had a chip on my shoulder. I still have a chip on my shoulder. I've achieved top sales. And even there's days I
Yeah,
catch
yeah.
myself, I'm like, am I good at sales? Am I still good?
Yeah, yeah.
That's just the little voice in your head. And I think it comes down to everyone has a bit of imposter syndrome. They always feel like they're not deserving of a certain thing. They always feel like they're not good enough, or maybe they're trying to be someone that they're not, or the person that they want to be is actually quite unattainable. And they look down on
Mm.
themselves. Um,
Yeah.
that was really hard to overcome. And I will say I was so lucky. I've met a couple of people along my way, both in my personal life and my work career, who have told me to say, It's okay.
Yeah.
Embrace it, because that's what makes you you."
Yeah, yeah.
Logically, you always know what you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to react or feel or maybe approach a situation. But emotionally,
Yeah.
it's really hard connecting the dots, because that little voice in you, it's very powerful, and it does make you doubt yourself, does demotivate you as well.
I want to take a bait here and actually expand on this one a little bit further, because imposter syndrome hits home quite a bit for me as well. I'd love to hear two things from you, Venus. So number one, when did you start feeling it? And then the second part is like, how did you overcome it?
It's a hard question. I never did well school or university. I was naturally
Okay, yeah.
really smart as a kid. So up until primary school, everything was great. And then when I entered high school, I got really lazy. I became the person that would skip school, maybe not attend classes, because I didn't have the best school experience. So I was running away a little bit. And that led me to, and that followed me through to uni, where
Mm,
I'm
mm.
pretty sure, I managed to somehow miraculously get a degree at a good university, USW, without going to, maybe a handful of lectures. So I'm really not your
Yeah,
model student, because I know that I wasn't the best student. When I got my first job, so back when I was a grad, I already felt like I wasn't supposed to be here, that I
this is in
somehow,
recruiting,
like,
right?
yes,
Yeah, yeah,
I somehow fudged my way into it. Um,
yeah,
It's funny because I worked in recruitment agency, Michael Page, and I'm really grateful that they gave me the opportunity. But when I first got in, I was under the impression that I was working as part of HR
yeah.
to help people find their dream job, which made
Yeah,
me feel a
yeah,
little bit
yeah,
better. But everyone kept telling me, no, you're in sales. And for all the listeners out
yeah.
there, if you're in a recruitment agency, you're absolutely in
Mm,
sales.
mm, mm.
You have targets to
Yeah,
hit month on month, quarter on quarter, year on
yeah,
year. Um,
yeah.
and it was back when I was a grad that I was like, okay, what am I doing here? I'm not smart or beautiful or well spoken like everyone else. Um, and when the hard work, the results helped.
Yeah, yeah,
At one point, I was very confident. I managed to build up my confidence, and that's purely through seeing the results, the achievements. I started, when you see progress, when you
yeah.
see, oh, actually, I can do this, you do build confidence. But the hard thing is, you get to your next role, you go into Gartner. I went into tech sales. It was a completely different world. I'm not someone who's very good at being put on the spot. So if you were like, do a role play,
Yeah, yeah.
I will
That's the
be.
worst. I don't know. I don't know anybody that's like, yeah, let's go. Role plays are the best.
I actually have met people, and they are just so good at role plays. They just naturally, they
Naturally
come
gritty
across
people.
confident. Yeah, they're wired different. But again, seeing other people, and the imposter syndrome comes back. And what I want to say is, like, it's you're always going to have a little bit of it. When I did my startup, again, like I was like, what am I doing to myself? Why am I going through and making my life so difficult? Like, I don't even know. And starting a business during COVID is really hard because you don't have
Mm.
mentors, you don't have the startup groups that you can typically lean on.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have to kind of figure it out yourself, and you
yeah.
make so many
Mm.
mistakes, but that's part of the journey. But every time you make a mistake, it knocks your confidence a little, and you're just like, oh, it's going to come back. But I've come to accept that it is a part. Again, it just goes back to, what I've learned before. It is a part of who you are. It's very normal to feel that way. But what you want to look at instead is, all right, acknowledge the voice, but really look at how can I still be a better person? If I look back at everything that I've been doing, have I tried my very best? And if yes, that's good. And, that's a good start. I won't say that's good enough because trying your best is one thing, but then at the end of the day, what's going to shut that little voice up and get rid of how you feel about yourself is going to come through from the results, seeing progress, um, things. And unfortunately, everyone can tell you that you're amazing. Everyone can tell you crazy for thinking the way that you are, but your voice is always going to be louder than theirs. And so it's really a battle between yourself of trying to prove yourself wrong and showing that, you know what, you can do it. Who are you to be saying these things about yourself when you don't even say it about other people?
I love that you own your identity, right? And I love it more because at the start of this conversation, we were talking about imposter syndrome. We're talking about confidence and how it impacts your confidence. And then now we're going full circle into the fact that when people see you and they have they talk to you for the first time, they think that you're extroverted because of your confidence. I think that goes to show that this is something that you can improve on, and particularly for yourself. You fucking killed it in terms of like that growth aspect of it. Yeah, props to you.
Thank you.
All right, next question. What do you think was the most underrated advice that you have ever received that in your eyes, it was next level for you?
Hmm. I'll have to think about this one. The most underrated advice. I think it goes back to what I've said earlier, because I've held that line very closely to my heart, which is
Okay.
just be you. People buy into authenticity and everyone is different. And so you can't expect your journey, your achievements, the way you're wired to be exactly the same as someone else. Your life is in your hands in a way. And so you
Mm,
can mold the type of outcome or future that you like. And I'm a true believer in that, which is
mm,
probably
mm,
why I work so hard.
mm.
But along the way, it's okay because when you look back, you're not going to remember how you felt a certain point of time, or you're not going to remember the bad results because there's so many bigger things that happen in
Yeah,
life. And so
yeah.
the most underrated advice is it's okay, just be you. Life happens.
So the most underrated advice that was given to you was just to be yourself, be authentic, right?
I
If
didn't
I think
believe at the
about,
time.
I agree. I agree as well. Going back to imposter syndrome, and maybe for anybody that's in their teens, tweens, right, and growing up, they probably won't believe it either. But authenticity is definitely key. It's interesting, how you were saying that when you think back about those times that you may have been embarrassed, etc. You're not going to remember it. I feel like the one thing you do remember is how you were and how you acted at that in that time. And I feel like if you were putting on a front and if you were doing something that wasn't you, I feel like that's the one thing you do remember. If there's anything you're going to remember about that situation, you remember that. So therefore, if you are authentic, at the very least, you're like, I don't remember what made me so sad, so scared, so nervous, but whatever. That was just me. That was there. I think in a work context, it's the same as well. When you have imposter syndrome, you want to act a certain way. When you're talking to prospects, you're talking to clients, you act a certain way because you believe that that's what they want from you. But ultimately, and I can't explain in a very deep and concise way why, but when you just bring yourself, even if it's maybe not that molded version that you think people want to see, people end up respecting you more and things are just much more genuine. So no, that part I completely agree.
You framed it so much better than I have. But what you did say is it's true. I'm not that slick person, especially when I'm, in my career when I've had to do a sales pitch, whether that was back for my startup or back in corporate.
Mm.
I have this thing where I always muddle sayings a little bit, um, and so I'll always get the words wrong a
You
little.
say like the analogies and the analogies are off.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, I do the same thing as well. Yeah,
yeah, and like it'll make sense in my head, and I say, I was like,
yeah,
"Is that right?" Or I
yeah,
get a little bit tongue twisted at times. And I
yeah,
used to get so embarrassed over that, and then it was
yeah,
like, "You know what? It's okay. That's just what makes me a little bit more endearing. It's fine." Like, it just
yeah,
shows I'm human and people buy into people.
yeah. People are going to remember the person, for better or worse.
Yeah, and I think it goes into that people are fallible. Everyone has
Mm.
flaws. And when you say things wrong, and I'm not saying go say things wrong, right? If you can get it right, just get it right the
Yeah,
first time.
That's right.
But if you do slip up a little bit, what people remember is who you are as a person. And that authenticity comes through because when you're just trying to be, when you're just yourself, not trying to be someone else, that comes through.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. I'm usually a contrarian, but this is something I can completely agree with you on.
Well, I'm glad we share the same views.
Last question. What is your definition of success and how has that changed?
I still remember this moment when I was in uni, and I had a mentor, and he posted on LinkedIn, "Oh my god, I just got my first six-figure job." He'd
Mm.
just broke the 100K mark. He was a few years older, and I was like, "Wow, that is what success looks like."
I did. It did. Yeah.
I remember six figures back then, like 10 years ago, back in 2015. You're just like, success is hitting 100K.
Yeah.
Australian dollars. Like,
Yeah.
if you've hit six figures, you've made it.
You made it. Yeah.
And then when I got there, was okay, success is going to be monetarily defined. It's like success is
Mm,
200K. I want to make 300K by
mm,
30. But when you get there, it's it's not really fulfilling. And I think this is where I've changed because when I started my startup journey, my success was defined by how many I ran a healthy dessert boxes company. It was defined by how many boxes I wanted to sell
hmm
and how much money I was going to make and the impact it was going to have on the people having a healthier gift option. We did well during COVID, but again, it was a really tough time. And so it didn't hit the
mm,
numbers I was expecting. I think one of the first things I tried doing was going to a market, one of those stand-up stores, national market.
yeah.
And
Yep.
I was, I'm going to promote this and sell, you know, 50 of these little boxes. And it was raining that day. There's things that you just don't factor in. So it was raining. It wasn't the best weather. A lot of people didn't come to the market. And so I was left with all this product. I was like, oh, fuck, I'm a failure. And again, it was like this little up downs where you'd set yourself hard metrics for what success is. So having gone through all of that and understanding that, you know what, it's not about the numbers. Success for me now is, am I doing what I want to do? Am I happy where I am? And am I excited about my future? And so it's not so much monetary or financial. Financial is still important. I think when you
Right.
get to a certain level, again, when you've achieved that first hurdle, which is, all right, I'm at a point where where I have stability in my life. And then you can look at, do I want to go even higher? Or, is it going to be maybe other things, starting a family or, things that are more personal to yourself? And
Mm-mm.
so it's a choice and you can have both. But for me right now, it goes back to those three questions. If I can't answer those three questions, it is not a normal measure of success anymore. But I think gotten myself where I have a solid foundation where I can just say, I don't want to be maybe CEO or I don't want to be a founder again. Otherwise, I'd probably be thinking and working on my next startup idea. I
Mm.
know what it takes, and I'm happy just if it's a yes to all those three questions.
I'm going to challenge you a little bit here, but for you to be able to hit those three questions or to be able to tick off those three questions, there are financial milestones to get there, right? I agree that those are big measures of success, but to get there in a capitalist society,
I think it all feeds into each other, right? Because are you happy with yourself? Well, if you're not making money, you're not going to be happy with yourself. Like
right, right,
if you don't have financial stability, you're not going to be happy with yourself. Do you see a future? If you have a vision that you're going after, and going after that is going to give you happiness. If you don't, maybe
yeah,
it's something else, but money is always going to come into it. And so all of those questions, whilst it's not directly money, for most people to reach those questions, to say yes to those questions, money's going to come into it. Like without a doubt, money does make the world go around. As much
right.
as I hate to admit it, but you're right. Whilst it's not a strict measure of
Mm-mm.
financial KPI, for example, you're probably going to need money to be happy. You're probably going to want more money in the future
Yeah,
to feel happier.
yeah,
And so, yes, but I don't think money is the only thing that defines what makes someone happy, which is why it's maybe broader questions that are left to the person to interpret for themselves. Because maybe it's not around money, but it's around bringing an idea to life that makes them
mm,
happy.
mm,
In the beginning, seeing no financial results,
right, right.
very
But seeing the
realistic.
impact,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's very realistic, but that's not what motivates them. That's not what success looks like for them. If you invented something that could change everyone's lives, really fix a problem, that is going to make someone else happy.
yeah. The social impact is definitely a key driver there, as opposed to the financial gain. So those are valid points as well.
And of course, I'm always happy to be challenged.
If I challenge you too hard here, I'm going to sound like a corporate stooge. So as much of a contrarian I am, I'll be cautious, and maybe we'll save that for a follow up money makers conversation. Okay, thanks for coming on, Venus. Really appreciate the time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Great
Would
to
love
have
to
you.
come back again.
Did you guys enjoy that episode? Tune into our podcast fortnightly, where I interview extraordinary people doing extraordinary things, sharing their insights and their stories about entrepreneurship. So whether you're aspiring, whether you're already doing your own thing, or experimenting while hustling at your 9 to 5, this one is for you guys. And if you like what you're hearing, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, follow us on our socials below, and we'll see you next time.